Have you watched the recent documentary on Netflix called Fit for TV? This documentary follows several contestants of The Biggest Loser through all seasons, as well as the producers, the medical professionals, and even Bob Harper himself is in this documentary. We are going to discuss this today because it's pretty juicy. Guys, welcome back to the channel for another video today. I'm so glad that you decided to join me today on this beautiful Wednesday for another episode of GLP1 Discussions. This is a series that I do here on my channel where I like to talk about certain topics that are interesting to me within the GLP1 space, within weight loss space, within the mental aspects of all of it. And we like to just have a really good, real, raw conversation here about things. So today I wanted to actually cover and talk about the recent documentary that was released on Netflix titled Fit for TV, The Reality of the Biggest Loser. Now, this documentary follows several of the show's past contestants that have, taken the time to come on and speak of their experience on the show, as well as the producer is on there. Bob Harper, the trainer for The Biggest Loser, is on there. Julian Michaels is not featured, which we will discuss. And then they also talk with the medical team. The medical lead on the show, which was Dr. Huizenga, is on there quite a lot. And so we learn a lot about what really went on behind the scenes in the show and how essentially health in the form of taking care of these people and improving their lives was actually like the very last thing that anybody was truly concerned with. Now, everything that I am talking about today was pulled from this show and is, fair game with the Fair Use Credit Act and all of that, because they put it on TV. We're just going to talk about it. So let's go ahead and jump right on into it. Now, this is not going to be a full-on discussion and recap of the show's history itself. Most of us that are, I would say, in our 30s to 40s, remember The Biggest Loser, remember the cinematography of it all and the drama of it all, essentially being a reality TV game that people were trying to win while using people's health and weight loss in the process. So we're not going to talk about all of that and how it all came to be and all of that, but what we are going to talk about is some specific things that some specific contestants have brought up about their journey on the show and how that correlated to their life now. And we're even going to talk Ozempic, because they did several times throughout the documentary talk about GLP-1s. There was a very big part of it at the end where it talked about GLP-1s and what the contestants think now about GLP-1 use, which I found quite interesting. So all that being said, I'm not a doctor. I am just a girl who watched this documentary and wants to talk about what I saw and what I heard and what I think about it. So always talk to your healthcare provider about anything regarding your own specific health situation. So in the beginning of the documentary, this is a 3-episode documentary, we start to see a lot of former contestants popping in, and for the most part they're telling the story of how they ended up on The Biggest Loser, what their past was like. A lot of them explain some pretty addictive eating problems. There was one guy, I can't remember if this was Danny, or I think it actually might have been Ryan Benson, who won the first season. He recalls that he used to go to work in the morning and he would stop at a donut shop and he would get several donuts and then he would sit in his car and hide and eat them all. And he said that he would do that at least 4 mornings a week, and his wife was not even aware that he was doing it. So he was definitely hiding food, binging food, and then making it seem as if he did not do that, right? Which is a very big problem in addicted, disordered eating, right? So that's kind of how it all starts out. We start to hear their journeys of how they are addicted to food, how they do suffer with obesity, and how they have never been able to make any type of change in their real lives. And they felt like the show was their last resort. If they did not go on this show, they were never going to lose this weight and they were going to be unhealthy forever. And it was just the be all end all for them. This is exactly what the producers wanted. In the documentary, they say they were looking specifically for people that had a big dramatic struggle with their weight. They would look at potential contestants, and if you had two that were the same exact weight, and one was mostly okay with herself and she just wanted to lose weight for her health, but the other one had this big dramatic story about how they've tried 500 different things and they've lost and regained weight and their wife is going to leave them if they don't lose the weight. The dramatic person is the one that was going to get casted, and they did that on purpose, and they admitted that within the documentary. So they wanted people who felt so out of control within their own lives in regards to their health and their diet that they would create a good story and that they would fight and do anything. Remember that they would do anything to win The Biggest Loser and to lose the weight. In the beginning, it was mostly about the weight loss, but we will see that it definitely changed to be a game that they were playing. To cover all bases here, I do want to say that the lead medical doctor, which was Dr. Huizenga, which if you don't know who that is, he was O.J. Simpson's doctor, and he was also the medical team doctor for the Oakland Raiders for a while. And so he is a very well-known physician in the celebrity space. So he was the doctor that was brought on to be the lead medical doctor on The Biggest Loser. And so he would meet with the contestants and give them specific dietary needs and exercise restrictions and stuff based on them. Now, he is very clear throughout the documentary that he did not give permission for any of the extreme tactics that were used, and that all of those tactics were going against his medical advice, to the point where he actually had threatened to quit the show if they did not allow him to meet with Bob and Julian to go over his concerns and his what he considered necessities on this journey. He threatened to quit a couple of times, and they said that they would appease him, they would let him meet with the trainers, but then nothing would ever change. They would just hide more from him. So I do want to say right up front that Dr. Huizenga claims that he was not on board and was very much so not in the know of anything that was going on within the show itself. So what happened is that Dr. Huizenga would tell the contestants one thing, you need to eat, and it was individualized, right? So you need to eat 1,500 calories a day. I need to eat 1,300 calories a day. I can exercise for 2 hours. You can exercise for 4, whatever. But what they found was contestants claimed that the trainers would tell them significantly different things than Huizenga did, and they wanted to win, and they wanted their trainers to like them, and they were in this position where the trainers were their authority, but also someone that they looked up to and they aspired to be like, right? So they listened to them, unfortunately, and the trainers were, the contestants claim that the trainers were telling them to eat 800 calories a day and to burn, this is astonishing, to burn 6,000 plus calories per day through very rigorous exercise, okay? I promise that this all comes back to GLP-1s and the mental toll and effect that obesity can have on your life. So stay tuned, okay? Now, we're gonna get into some specific contestants, and I'm gonna have a picture of them pop up here when we talk about them. So Tracy Uk was a contestant that had actually collapsed during a crazy challenge where they had to run a mile on the beach. Now, if you are a fit person who has ever tried to run on the beach, you know it's hard, right? Running on sand is pretty difficult. So now we have several 300-400 pound people who are required to run this mile on the beach, and if they do not finish, they go home. Okay, so they all wanted to stay. It was extreme drama for the company, right? So Tracy crosses the finish line, and when she does, she collapses and her organs start to shut down. She has a disorder. It starts with an R. It's a really long word. And she essentially died and was airlifted to a hospital, was recovered. They had threatened, she had so much fluid in her legs that they had threatened to have to perform surgery to remove a bunch of the fluid. And Dr. Huizenga came in and met with her and actually recommended that she go home. And she was like, no, I can't go home. I have to change my life. So she goes back to the, they called it the ranch, the Biggest Loser ranch. She goes back to the ranch and she is ridiculed and she is looked down upon because she is not medically cleared to do all of the crazy exercise that all of the other contestants are doing. So it even like the psychological warfare on Tracy was so bad that like when she would lose weight at the weigh-ins, the trainers wouldn't clap for her. They would clap for everybody else, but they wouldn't clap for her simply because she wasn't doing the exercises. She wasn't showing up at the gym, like everybody else was. And they thought of her as weak because she was listening to the doctor for her health, but they didn't like that, right? So she eventually was voted off. However, she spent a lot of time really focusing on her diet so that she could continue to lose weight like the others were. And she made it, I think, 5 weeks before she, or no, maybe that was somebody else. I think she might have made it longer. She lost like 80 pounds before she was kicked off of the show, but it got to the point where she would start to use the system for her advantage. So they would do a challenge where they would say, for one example, there was one where they were like, if somebody crosses over the line, the first one to cross over the line, you get a 4-pound advantage at the next weigh-in. And she's like, bet. And she took that. And where a lot of the other contestants were like, that was wrong. Like, you should have stayed with all of us and none of us should have crossed the line. She was like, I'm already at a disadvantage because I can't work out the same way you guys are. And so it was just this really big thing with Tracy, and how she was essentially looked down upon because she was trying to look out for her health and her life, essentially. Now, the season 1 winner, who I mentioned earlier, was Ryan Benson. And I'm pretty sure, so Tracy was on a season with another contestant that we will discuss, but Ryan Benson was the season 1 winner. He lost 122 pounds, okay? And he talks a lot in his interviews about how the contestants were tortured psychologically so much that extreme methods like not eating and not drinking and, essentially starving yourself for long periods of time and over exercising to sweat out more fluids was something that was very regularly done before weigh-in days. So there would be a period of several days where nobody was eating, nobody was drinking, people were exercising like crazy, just trying to get, and that's how they achieved those, 15, 20 pound weight loss numbers on the scale, right? So he says that his got so bad that at the finale, right before he won, they tested his urine, which I'm assuming they did for everybody to test for like drugs or whatever. And the medical staff actually told him that there was a significant amount of blood in his urine. So he's about to go on and win The Biggest Loser and supposed to be this picture of health, right? But he's tortured his body so much and broken down his body so much through the encouragement of the show that he's got blood in his urine and he's actually really breaking down on the inside. He just goes on and wins The Biggest Loser and moves on with his life. And he says that something after the show that he really wished they would have done was offer post care for the contestants that won or didn't win, for all contestants, therapy, helping them to readjust into society, nutritional advice, gym memberships, something that they were always told that there just wasn't money for. However, The Biggest Loser made millions and millions of dollars. Like we remember there were Wii games, there were food sponsorships, there was all kinds of stuff, right? It's just insane how they were told, they used them for this show, dramatic effect, and then just like, oh, have a nice life, go off with your life and do the things you want to do. This reminds me of a few weeks ago when we were discussing clinical trials and how at the end of them, there's no post-care support. It's just like, bye, you're done with your Zepbound, have a great day, live life, don't gain your weight back, right? It's similar. It's exactly the same if you think about it, except those people on The Biggest Loser completely wrecked their metabolisms, which we're going to get into. Now, Joelle was on season 7 and she was the show's drama queen, and it wasn't her, it was them making her into this drama queen. So she says that she was made to be a monster for the show and she wasn't getting healthy because she was being tortured. And so she was again, starving herself, extreme restriction, extreme exercising, because one of the contestants said that they would over exercise you so much to the point of such exhaustion that you would fight with other people. And so that season that she was on, it was a couples thing. So she had a friend of hers that was with her. And they would pity them against each other, and they fought all the time. And when she was voted off, Joelle, everybody wrote her name down and were really mean and really rude to her. And she's one of the ones that actually speaks out later in a very well-known New York Times article that was gone. Now, Danny Cahill, he won season 8. So he lost the highest percentage of his body weight ever on the show. He started, he lost 239 pounds, and it was like 55% of his body weight. Insane, right? After he won the show, he actually went on to The Doctors, the TV show The Doctors, and had skin removal surgery from them, and was like, did this whole like tour because he had lost the most weight ever with different like talk shows and stuff like that, right? Now, it was very short-lived though, because now currently, as Danny sits on the picture that I'll show on the TV in the docuseries, he weighs more now than he did when he started it, because he didn't fix anything. In fact, he hurt something. So a few things to highlight about the aftermath of The Biggest Loser for specific contestants. So a New York Times article was posted accusing the show of completely wrecking the contestants' metabolism. There was a very small study done of 14 prior contestants that showed that their basic metabolic rate, in order for them to lose weight at the same rate that they could before the show, they would have had to burn 400 more calories forever, continuously, every single day, to lose the same amount of weight. And so if you already had to burn 500 calories to lose weight, they have to burn 900. And this is because they lowered their basic metabolic rate to the point, I mentioned this in another video, when you lose a bunch of weight, and that's why yo-yo dieting is awful, because when you lose a bunch of weight and then you gain a bunch of weight, your metabolic rate stays at the lower point. It never rises back up to be able to hold out the higher rate, okay? And that's why you end up usually keep creeping and creeping and creeping up. So these people destroyed by losing like 200 pounds in 6 months. Their metabolism, their basic metabolic rate is so low now that the amount that they can eat just to maintain that is like, I think they said like 700 to 800 calories per day. Nobody can do that, right? Nobody can eat that amount of weight, that amount of food consistently for the rest of their life. It's just not possible, okay? So when this article came out, there were both women. It was Joelle and one other woman. She was a police officer, I believe, speaking about the effects and the after effects and the way that they were treated with on the show. That turned into people accusing the show of drugging contestants or of encouraging the contestants to take drugs in order to lose weight significantly. And this was sort of proven because in season 15 in 2013, Jillian Michaels was penalized. Her team was penalized. I think they got like a 4-pound penalization because Jillian was encouraging her people to take caffeine pills, which would give them a boost of energy, which would allow them to work out more, stuff that was strictly against the show's rules. There was another gentleman that said that he was given stackers by his trainer. Now, Bob Harper, who is on the show, on the documentary, says that that was never true for him. He never did that. He never offered his people caffeine pills. And the producer, JD Roth, said the same thing. To my knowledge, none of that ever occurred. However, Jillian Michaels was found to have done that and actually admitted it, stating that at least I'm not telling them to drink 17 cups of coffee a day to get the same amount of caffeine. At least that they're just taking one caffeine pill. She sort of justified it in her mind. So again, the big issue was it was against the show, and Dr. Huizenga was very against it and was very vocal about that. So the trainers were doing things against the medical advice of the medical doctor that they hired to keep everybody safe, okay? That's the bottom line here. The show cared more about the ratings and the money than they did about the people that they claimed they were trying to help. Now, Ozempic. In the end of the 3rd episode, all of a sudden, it goes, oh, 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 Ozempic. And we start to hear about Ozempic, and we flash to the Jillian Michaels interview that she did, where she claims that Ozempic will ruin your body. You don't need it. The side effects are awful. You might get cancer. All of the things that we know that Jillian Michaels has said, right? It flashes to that, okay? And how she essentially says, you don't need a shot. You need some willpower and to eat less and to move your body, which is the same thing that we have heard for our entire lives, right? Like the thing that we know is just not true. You don't need a shot, you need willpower. That's basically what Julian's stance is. And if you could just be like me, then you would lose all your weight. If you were just as gung-ho about healthy eating and moving your body as I am, then you wouldn't be fat. To be inside the mind of Julian and to be a fly on the wall in her house and see the things that because she was significantly overweight and had a really good transformation, to see the things that she might have, I don't know, I don't want to make accusations, she'll probably sue me or something, but like, who knows, right? Like, to be a fly on the wall in her house, okay? Then several of the contestants that were featured throughout the documentary, the ones that we mentioned, Danny and Ryan and Joelle, popped on and kind of gave their little opinions. And it was very interesting to see what their opinions were of GLP-1s. A couple of them were on a GLP-1 and said that this has changed their life and it was the best thing and that's what they should have done, 20 years ago when they were on The Biggest Loser. If it had been a thing, they would have opted for that first. Joelle was on one, and then the New York City cop was on one as well. And how it's completely transformed their life, and how food noise is a thing, and how obesity is a disease, all the things we know and love about GLP-1 use. But the sad thing was, a couple of them, specifically Danny, who is 400 plus pounds now, was still very much of the mind, I don't need that. I can do it myself, right? I can figure it out. My wife and I, we both need to do it. We just need to make a change. We just need to do it. Let's buckle up and do it. And it was that same attitude that had been driven into them through The Biggest Loser. And I can't help but wonder what type of like PTSD these people suffer with now from what they went through, and how what these trainers did on the show, how they can look back at it now and say that was in the best interest of them. I think that this show proves that obesity is a disease, a complex disease that is very largely controlled in your brain. Even if you look at them currently, with Joelle being on GLP-1 and Danny saying, never, I can do this myself. Those are brain responses, right? Like opinions that they have formed and belief systems that they have made up in their mind. And so the documentary taught me that obesity cannot be fixed by starving yourself. It cannot be fixed by extreme dieting. It cannot be cured by magic willpower that's going to solve all of your problems. This magic fairy tale willpower that, I hate to say it, but like, has anybody really consistently found any? If we had, would we be obese, right? If obesity could be cured with willpower, we wouldn't be obese. So for Bob and Jillian to still say it's a willpower thing, you guys just don't want it bad enough, and to say about the aftermath of how the fact that most of these contestants have gained all their weight back, to say it's you decided to go back to your old eating habits, you did this to yourself, is absolutely insane and predatory and wrong of them to say. So what are your thoughts? What do you think about this documentary? Did you watch it? If you didn't, I would highly recommend it. It's 3 episodes. I watched it in a day. I watched it yesterday and took notes as I was watching it. It made me sympathize for the past contestants of this show and what they went through. And it also made me feel more solidified in my realization and my choice that GLP-1s are for me and are for all of us struggling with obesity, and that a cure is not found in my willpower. So I, of course, want to know what your thoughts are down below. If you want to discuss the documentary, we can absolutely do so in the comment section. Please do. And yeah, let's chat about it. Let's have a discussion. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. The docuseries can be found on Netflix, if I did not already say that. So definitely go give it a watch, and I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, guys.